Hello and welcome to an all-new episode of Press YYZ. We're the only Canadian gaming podcast you can catch live on Twitch every Wednesday at 8 p.m. Eastern, as well as on podcast services and YouTube every Thursday. My name is AJ Fraser, and I'm joined today by Alexander Kozina.
Hey. It is a stacked cast. I am feeling real good about this episode. I'll tell you this right off the bat, AJ. Real good.
What makes you say that? What makes you feel really good about it? It's just something in the air? Is there a weird presence here?
I mean,
that has not been addressed yet?
You could say that. You could say that it's a presence that has wandered into the studio today.
Studio. Speaking of presents, the gift to all of us, my good friend Ben Wander has joined us again. Welcome back, Ben.
Hey, I thought you were gonna make a smelly joke with that. There's something in the air. I was gonna do like a deodorant check.
I mean, you still could. Do you want to try that again? No. Yeah, perfect. There. Yeah,
actually, you might be able to smell me from Toronto, maybe.
Yeah. Sorry to audio listeners, if you can't smell him, I guess. I don't know. So before we get started, as a reminder, as always, that we here at Press YYZ stand against discrimination of any kind. While we appreciate however you choose to give back to our show, there is no better way to support us than by being excellent to each other. A little bit of housekeeping before we move forward here. Next, so Nathan is away. He's on vacation. I guess it's some sort of March break thing or whatever with his kids. So next week, look forward to him concluding his Lego Dimensions adventures. And then so today we're going to be talking about Art of Rally. But just we're gonna hold that for a little bit later in the show. But just so you know, there was a bit of a surprise drop on Game Pass today. I don't know if you know that the long-awaited Tunic is apparently out now on Game Pass. Surprise! So we're going to go ahead and do that. We're going to take a couple weeks to make sure we can all put a little bit of extra time into it.
I know that I know that we've talked about Tunic on the podcast before. Did this game receive some sort of demo that some of us played, or am I misremembering?
Ben, you might have played it. I don't know. You're a developer.
I have not played a Tunic demo. I think you were with us, AJ, at the E3 where it was shown, like on stage.
No, right? The only E3 that I got a chance to go to was 2013.
So then it was after. I think Taylor and I were like in the Microsoft whole conference thing, and we lost our minds. Like it was so cool. I think we had just been talking about Link to the Past or something, and we were in there and we both looked at each other, and we somehow ended up with seats kind of far away from each other. So he looked up and I looked down at him, and we're like, wow. I'm pretty sure the person behind me didn't see like half of the trailer because my hands are in their face. I'm sorry, whoever that was.
Wow. Man, I miss E3.
I know, it was so cool. I'm happy to have gone to some of the last ones because it won't ever be the same. But who knows? Whatever, something bigger and better will come replace it. Let's have it in Japan because I want excuses to visit Japan.
E4, absolutely. Yeah,
E4. Yeah, exactly.
Euphoria, I guess it'll be like that, like the G4 thing or something. I don't know. G4 is back too, by the way. I don't know if you noticed.
Maybe G4 will make the new E3. So we too can go to that one.
There's an idea. I like that idea. That's a good idea. Yeah. So, Ben, how you been? It's been a while. We even in our personal life, all we do right now is really and our friend Kenny he doesn't get irritated with us, but he's chosen not to participate because he's a loser. But all we do these days is play Wordle and talk Formula One. So how you doing?
Good. Yeah, my life is Wordle, Formula One, and taking care of an infant. Those are basically we can talk about any one of those things.
Congrats on the sex, first of all. Good job.
Oh, thank you.
Well done. Yes. You did it.
Yes.
They can't hear it at home, but I am.
Yeah, it did happen.
But very silently.
Yeah. It's okay. So for those interested, he was last on the podcast. It was almost a year and a half ago, and that I think it was episode 26. So you can look back and hear all about his like game development history and stuff. Like all that stuff is still relevant technically to what he was doing then. But
weirdly enough, I don't remember why this is, but that was one of the earliest episodes that we have saved on our archives on our Twitch account. I know that we had been streaming episodes before that point, but for whatever reason, that's like the furthest one that you can go back into it. I don't really know why, but hey,
I think I may have saved that on purpose because it was me getting a chance to talk with my friend. So personal biases aside, you know,
there we go.
I think that's what happened.
That makes sense.
I think that's how that happened. And then it just sort of clicked for all of us. We should be doing this. We should have been doing this all along. But yeah.
Do you want to recap like what I do? Is that useful?
Yeah, you know what? Yeah, go ahead and reintroduce yourself. Yeah, give everybody here the pre-season primer of Ben Wander.
Okay, the pre-season primer of Ben Wander. I guess real quick, I've been in the industry for over a decade now, which is crazy. I worked at mobile stuff, I've done AAA stuff, and now I do indie stuff. The latest indie thing that I've done is called Airborne Kingdom. It got nominated for a BAFTA along with a bunch of other things. I know, it's crazy. I thought you had to be British to get a BAFTA. Nobody's British, but we got nominated, which was cool. It was out on the Epic Games store, and then we ported it to console. And now, as of last Monday, so like a week and a bit ago, it is out on Steam. So you can get it kind of wherever you want. It's like 8 different platforms. It's too many.
Yeah,
way too many places. Okay,
so I actually bought it on all of them. So it's like, the only bias that I have is that I know one of the people who made it. But I actually paid money for it on all of the platforms, I think, except PlayStation, because I don't use that one that often. But so okay,
you're paying for my daughter's education, AJ. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Yeah. So okay, Airborne Kingdom. When I first mentioned it on the show with you here, I mentioned how I played a build on Steam because you let me play around with it, focus test it, whatever. And then it went Epic Game Store exclusive.
Yeah.
So, okay. I'm just going to talk out of my ass here for a quick sec. And this is how I understand the Epic exclusivity. And I'll give you a chance to correct me and tell me how wrong I am.
Okay.
The way it sounds is the Epic exclusivity was not that you guys were greedy developers looking for a better cut of the fucking pot there, because Steam is 30% and Epic was giving you 12%, taking 12% instead of 30, whatever it was. It was because they literally just sort of said, hey, we like the project. We're going to basically fund you, as in the people, give you guys, not give you guys a salary, but give you what you need so that you can finish the project. And it's in a way, it's like kind of like almost like a first party, but not.
Yeah, totally. That's exactly right. That's okay. Kind of the way we explained it when we took the funding. Like, we're out on Steam, we're out on Xbox, we're out on PlayStation, we're out on Nintendo, but legitimately this game would not exist on any of those platforms had it not been for Epic coming in. We would have made something. Like, again, you played the demo before we had talked to Epic, before we signed anything. Mm-hmm. But with the budget that we had, it just would have been a worse game. Honestly, it really would have been. We would have been a lot more stressed. We would have probably crunched way too hard, made a lot of mistakes. It would have been buggy. It wouldn't have been as long. It wouldn't have been as detailed, yada, yada, yada. Now the game is out, and it's something that I'm genuinely really proud of. And getting that funding from Epic at that time was the only way we could have done that.
Yeah. So like even still, I went before this surprise Steam release that you were very cagey about, even in our private chats here, you jerk.
Jesus.
Yeah, I know, right?
Can you tell our friends?
Yeah, come on. No. So even people were like I remember there was like curated lists of people saying don't buy this because they're going to Epic Game Store, because like a bunch of stupid idiot haters out there. And so like I'm obviously biased about that whole scenario because yeah, of course I know you're going to make the right decision, but like, is there anything you have to say to people who like still think it's just because of like the pay difference? Like, people, like, nobody knows like what goes on like behind the scenes of like the hands that are shaken and like, hey, like, listen, nobody's being greedy here. We just want to be able to make the best game we can.
Yeah, I mean, so to be fair, I don't want to blame anyone who saw the game on Epic, said, I really just use Steam, I'm not going to buy this game here, and then walked away, right? I might like have an argument for them, but like, hey, no love lost. Like, that's fine. You're a consumer, consume. Do the way you want.
Free market, baby.
I do think there's like a subset of people that just like get off on being angry about Epic.
Oh yeah.
And I don't think that there is a subset. Trust me, I intimately know that there is a subset of people that do that. And you know, some of those people are 11-year-olds on the internet who just want to flame people and you know, let it roll off your back. But I think if you're trying to think about it logically, just breaking down the amount of funding that a game needs, like, think about it. Our game probably had about a dozen people touch it, and that's a tiny team. Like, even most indie games, even Tunic, where the credit literally says one person, go read their credits. I bet you their credits are longer than my credits. And so the amount of manpower that it takes to make a video game times the amount of energy in terms of food that people require and the amount of shelter that they somehow need to pay for ends up making games really expensive very quickly. And I think there's a weird anchoring issue with like Kickstarter and stuff. You know, you'll see Kickstarters these days will go up and say, hey, we're going to make this super expansive 1,000-hour RPG. Here's our team of like 30 people. We need $30,000 to move this game over the edge. And you're like, no, you don't.
No, like, no disrespect to the people out there that are still using Kickstarter. I genuinely had forgotten that website existed up until you just brought it up.
Right. Wow. Yeah. Well, so that's the thing. I think there's these kind of what are ostensibly marketing campaigns on Kickstarter now, but they've anchored people to think about games and game makers in a really weird way. And I think a way to break out of that is just like, okay, math it out. How much do you have to get paid? How much instantly from your business does the tax man take of that, which is like pretty close to half. It's pretty big. How much of that do you have to pay to people doing your stuff? And then finally, how much of that can you eventually pay yourself? Oh, and what's the store cut too? Because again, store cuts are usually 30%. So you end up with like a tiny fraction of what the quote unquote game makes. There are ways to estimate what Steam games make online, and you can see that most games are in the tens of thousands of dollars, if that. And even the ones that are quote unquote successful, you might think like, oh man, this game made $300,000. Well, great. Did it take 3 people 3 years to make? Because that means they made it on like, you know, after taxes, $20K a year. Like, it's even what can be seen as success has to be taken through the lens of, well, yeah, but like, if this is your career, you got to live off of it, right? And so there's this perception that like game devs are greedy, but I think only if you're defining greedy by like, I want to eat, basically, right?
Yeah.
So that I guess that's the way I'd put it, is like, try to, if you're genuinely in that mindset and you honestly like want to see through my lens, want to walk through my shoes, just do the math, just math it out and see how much does a game have to generate in order to even support like a team of 5 people, 10 people, whatever. And that's when you start to realize that like, hey, getting that funding up front is way less stressful and can make us pull commitments off, like paying an audio team that we couldn't otherwise, right? Sorry, let me. That's my soapbox. I will stop standing on it.
No. You might want that to keep that around for later. I don't know. Yeah. So yeah, Airborne Kingdom out now on Steam, out now on all consoles. Have you seen any? What have you noticed like since the Steam release? Like any like I personally, so I on Twitch you can like follow specific games, right?
Yeah.
And I would follow Airborne Kingdom, right? And just like the view count has like gone up quite a bit from where it was before Steam. So like have you guys noticed anything from like your perspective and on your end regarding like the interest or anything like that?
Yeah, I mean, the great thing about Steam is that you do get a lot of visibility on it. People kind of shop on Steam the same way they shop at, you know, a mall or something. They might not know what they want going in. They might just hang out. They might just window shop. They might, you know, use their algorithm to try to find games that they might like. And maybe they don't buy it now, but they wish list it and then they'll watch it on Twitch. And then because of that, some other YouTuber will stream it. And so it does become this kind of, because there's such a mass of people on Steam, we end up finding an audience that like we hadn't seen before, which is partly, I mean, it's great. It's also partly surprising. I was like, this game's been out for a year now. Hasn't everybody heard of it? And it turns out that like, no, a lot of people haven't. And we're still updating it. So it's still getting like new content drops. We're still making it more efficient. We're still like, we added language support for like 8 different languages now. So you can play it in Spanish or simplified Chinese or whatever. We're adding accessibility options. So it's not like dead by any means. We're still definitely putting content in there. But like the base game was out in about a year ago. And so I would have thought, hey, anybody who wanted to or had heard of it would have bought it. How much more can it do on Steam? And it's really found an audience in a way that I wasn't expecting, which is fantastic. I'm really happy about it.
Awesome. That's super cool. So okay, so for the game itself, what's next for that? What's planned for that? Because like is there a DLC map? Is there like or just like features or bug fixes or something that you got coming up next for it?
Yeah, so we're always doing bug fixing. We just released like in the last week because again, more people started playing on Steam. So more people had different machines they were playing it on, and they're like, "Oh, hey, this version of Windows 7 without this particular patch doesn't play the video at the beginning," or you know, in Chinese, this certain screen just has all boxes, not no characters in it, or whatever. So we've been fixing a ton of those minor bugs this last week. We're also bringing over a lot of the efficiencies that we made on console builds over to the PC version, so that hopefully more people can play it on like lower end stuff. Especially, we want to make sure that you know it can hit as many players as want to play it. And then on top of that, yeah, we're adding new features all the time. Honestly, it's a lot of listening to our community. Some of the stuff that we added a new game plus mode where you can play the game again, and it's a bigger map and it's more randomized and it has more like dies and interesting things that you can find. There's a hard mode because people wanted like more difficulty, so we're like, okay, play it in hard difficulty, let's go, let's see it. There's a creative mode, which is the exact opposite. We unlock everything and you can just build and paint and do whatever you want, all to your heart's desire. So yeah, there's a bunch of stuff like that we're doing, and a lot of those are call outs from our community. So you know, we read all our Discord. Now the Steam discussions are really popping off, so we read all those too. And we're trying to kind of see where is it that people want us to take it next. We have our own ideas, but I'm really curious the type of stuff that people want us to do.
Cool. That's awesome. I'm glad to hear it's going well, right? Because like, you know, you hear all the doom and gloom online from like all those naysayers about it not being on Steam, right? And then like, yeah, of course you're going to get a bigger audience because it's the most popular platform. So the fact that it's doing well and that it's moving forward for you, and like you're able to feed your newborn child because of it, you know, that's fucking awesome. I'm super excited to hear that.
I do want to ask, you know, we've been talking a lot about Steam versus the Epic Game Store and so much of the stigma that carries. It strikes me that like so much of the backlash that the Epic Game Store was enduring was really kind of at its peak about kind of 2 years ago. I feel like I've not really kind of seen as much of that kind of hate as of late. But as somebody that has been more in kind of the thick of things recently, Ben, like, I'm kind of curious how that's been for you as of recent. Like, have you seen like a lot of people still to this day express their kind of extreme frustration over the game taking its time to make its way to Steam, or is it not quite what it used to be?
It's hard because my viewpoint is skewed, right? I see a lot more of it because I made a game that was Epic exclusive and then we released on Steam. So I'm aware of more of it, but I think my sense is the same as yours, which is that it's kind of cooled down. I think part of it is that people are seeing a lot more of these exclusive games coming to Steam later. And that, I think a lot of the anger especially was around that Borderlands release, around like, hey, these are really big games that I've been really looking forward to coming out, that like you're a giant publisher who's like made these things before, who doesn't necessarily quote unquote need this money. I don't know that publisher. I don't work for them. Maybe they do. I have no idea. But that's kind of the sense that people were getting. And now it's on this platform that I don't want to download. And I think that instant reaction of those huge games kind of kicked off this maelstrom of then people said, okay, I just don't want to deal with this. Reddit's R Gaming, a bunch of other places jumped on it, and then it became a thing. But it wasn't ever as big of a thing as people thought. And as much as it's gone away, it hasn't fully gone away yet. So I do think there's this like small audience of people that are just very, very adamantly anti-Epic Game Store and anti-games that go on there. And again, hopefully I've explained enough about why we took it and why I think developers take deals like that. And hopefully why that makes the games that you play better, especially from indie teams.
For sure.
Cool. Before we wrap up Airborne Kingdom here for this portion, there is a very specific YouTuber who I think would do really well if they received one of these codes. So I'm just going to throw this out there.
Okay.
Real Civil Engineer.
Civil Engineer. I have not heard
Real Civil Engineer.
Okay.
I'll send their YouTube channel off to you. They do a lot of like strategy and a lot of city builder stuff. They were how I found the beaver city builder called Timberborn, which I got really addicted to for a while. Cool. I don't know if you've heard of that game.
I have heard of that game, yeah.
Yeah, so Timberborn, like it's the beaver city builder. I learned of this from them just popping up in a random YouTube whatever recommendation.
Yeah.
And I think I am surprised they have not seen Airborne Kingdom yet, this person. So definitely check them out. He's got really good like active content where like you're actively watching and like mostly engaged in what every action is doing, but it's also good like background content where like, if there's a game you're not interested in, like his commentary and stuff is pretty good and pretty funny with regards to whatever's going on, just as like as background noise if you want as well. Cool. Plus he's got a cute dog named Patty and he's British, so
that's all. Cool. That's always a positive. I will see. Yeah, give me his stuff. Yeah. I'll ask. We have this amazing PR team called 50cc, run by a wonderful woman named Lizzie. I will get Lizzie to reach out to him.
Cool. Yeah. He's super cool, and I highly recommend him for anybody because like he started playing like I probably wouldn't have been interested in this Beaver City Builder, but watching him play it got me to buy that game in early access on Steam. So.
Nice.
Hey. Yeah, so let's see here. Moving on. Unless you have anything else going on.
Go buy Airborne Kingdom. Feed my family.
Airborne Kingdom. Out now on Steam, out now on Switch, out now on Xbox, out now on PlayStation. Also still on the Epic Game Store.
I'm not too proud of a person to hold out a box and be like, fill this with cash.
When can we expect the iPad version?
Oh God, we talked about that a long time ago when we were talking about a VR version, we talked about a tablet version. impossible, like 100% impossible with the way that this game is built. I want to like nip that in the bud here. If anybody's waiting for the iPad version or waiting for the Oculus version, I am terribly sorry. I think those would be really cool. Cannot happen. Okay. We can go into like real deep details about why if you really want to, but it can't do it.
Okay, how about this? Okay, so what about like cloud streaming, like let's say Stadia? Is that's next?
Cool. No, honestly, that stuff is really interesting because it does allow games like ours to be played by, say, my mom, who is not going to buy an Xbox, who doesn't have like a computer that can probably run it very well, but she could play it at like ultra graphics on Xbox Game Pass Ultimate or whatever. Not that necessarily my mom will get that, but you know what I mean? Like someone who doesn't have the latest and greatest console. That stuff's really cool, especially for a game like ours that's not like extremely frame rate dependent or latency dependent. Like it's a pretty chill kind of city builder vibes experience. Mm-hmm. I think it would be really, really good for something like that. That stuff could be really cool. Yeah.
Awesome. So yeah, I guess that was Airborne Kingdom.
Yay!
Yeah, yay! We did it. Yeah. Kozi, you have not talked a whole bunch this episode. It's been me mostly catching up with my buddy here,
which is totally fine. Don't worry, I'm not sitting here feeling quiet and sad. Definitely not.
I don't believe you, but okay. Ori and the Blind Forest. You've been playing that?
Yes.
How's that?
I have been playing Ori and the Blind Forest. So let me spin you a tale, Ben Wander and AJ Fraser. About, I guess it's a year and a half ago at this point, I got my hands on the Xbox Series X. It was my first ever Xbox console, and I was eager right off the bat to jump into the console's ecosystem and, catch up on all the cool Xbox exclusives I had previously missed. Ori and the Blind Forest was kind of at the top of the list because I already like Metroidvanias. I already like kind of skill-based, puzzle-based platformers of its ilk. And more than that, it just looked really pretty and obviously was very well reviewed and well regarded by the people that had played it. I bought it at the time. I played it. It might have honestly been like the first game that I ever played on my Xbox Series X at the time. Got about an hour into it and dropped off. Not that I hated it. I just, it happens sometimes that you start playing a game, you get distracted, and then inevitably a year and a half has passed. A couple of weeks ago, I finally get around to finishing the Jason Schreier book, Blood, Sweat, and Pixels. And at the end of the book, so much of the book is about Jason Schreier talking about how the video game industry can be a more kind of sustainable place and, talking about some of the kind of horror stories that other developers had to go through in the past. At the very end of the book, he talks about how, the switch that many studios have made to working from home amidst the pandemic has, created a lot of complications that we couldn't have previously foreseen. But it's also kind of opened the door to allow a lot of studios to, develop games in a much more sustainable fashion. People who previously couldn't afford to kind of displace themselves and move to other states or provinces or countries, now have the ability to, work from their dream studios or the studios that are the best fit for them, from the comfort of their home. And an anecdote at the very end of the book that he relays that I thought was especially fascinating is that Moon Studios, the studio behind Ori and the Blind Forest, has been on this train since 2010. When the studio was founded in 2010, it started out as a virtual studio, and ever since then, it has only continued to grow and expand as a more or less entirely virtual studio. I believe that it technically is headquartered in, I want to say Austria, but pretty much everyone that works for the studio comes from every which corner of the globe. And that motivated me to come back and re-experience Ori and give it an honest college try. And let me tell you, playing this game from start to finish was a roller coaster of emotions for me. Overall, I walked away from the game really enjoying it by the end. But the journey to get to that end definitely had its hardships. First or so hour replaying it, playing through the content that I had previously played back when I first got my Series X, I thought it was pretty good. I thought it was pretty fine. I would say that the next 2 to 3 hours of the game were pretty fraught. And the reason why they were pretty fraught, I would say mostly came down to this one mechanic that's pretty unique to Ori, which is the way that it allows you to save your game. Unlike other Metroidvanias, in Ori, you can manually place wherever it is that you want to save the game by basically using a small amount of energy that you have at your disposal. On paper, it sounds really kind of cool. There aren't many games, again, that offer that specific sort of mechanic. In practice, however, I found it particularly frustrating during those early hours of the game where you don't have a whole lot of energy to throw around to begin with. You also don't have a whole lot of hit points that you can use to kind of cheat death. And on top of all that, your use of your energy to generate saves is also competing with your use of energy to land powerful attacks to help clear out enemies that are in front of you. And so I really was not feeling this game for a really long time because of how frustrating I felt like this save system made parts of the game that otherwise I felt wouldn't have been necessarily all that challenging. Eventually, towards the end, though, I feel like as a result of me acquiring enough power-ups in the game, acquiring enough like energy and health upgrades, and the design of the game overall, I think, really ramping up in a really satisfying way. I found that I was really able to enjoy the kind of final few hours of my time with it. I think that the final dungeon of the game, which takes place inside of a volcano, was especially great. And while I'm not planning on jumping into it right away, I am really looking forward to checking out Ori and the Will of the Wisps, because I have heard that by all accounts that game is only better than this game. And yeah, that was a very, 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 very long little speech, but those are my thoughts on Ori and the Blind Forest.
Everything I've all the good things that I've heard about Ori and the Blind Forest has to do with like, like the platforming and everything is solid, right? And the mechanics are mostly solid, right? But like the story, they a lot of people seem to really appreciate, and they really affects them emotionally. How did you feel about it?
I thought it was fine.
All right, perfect.
No, it's no, that's the same way I felt, Kozi. I'm remembering this game now. We're watching some of the video, and that's I was surprised because I heard what AJ said from a lot of people, and then my reaction was exactly what Kozi just said. Yeah, that was fine.
It's like it's very Studio Ghibli-esque in the sense that it doesn't try and kind of overthink anything. It's very much, hey, this is a story about kind of cute animals living in a beautiful but terrifying world and the trials and tribulations that they undergo. And I think that there are some very beautiful moments, but I feel like how much you will get out of them emotionally, I'd say, is very much dependent on how much I'd say that you're into that specific kind of genre, that particular kind of aesthetic when it comes to like video games and movies to begin with. And as somebody that has enjoyed like Studio Ghibli films in the past, but doesn't necessarily have that connection to them, it didn't perhaps land with me as much as it could have.
I just remember it being very tropey. Like, you're this wisp, I guess, whose home is being taken over by a raven who then has to find your friends and save them or something. Like, it was fine. It got me through it, but I was surprised at how, like you said, AJ, emotionally relevant people found it. Like, I thought it was a cute kind of cartoony story that made me play some really cool platforming. But I also never found the story, the draw to it, really.
Yeah, like it's one of those, like, it's been on Game Pass forever, and I just haven't had the desire to go through it. or anything like that to even boot it up if I wanted to. It's just like everybody like and so hearing both of you guys like say like with the story and like everybody was always saying like, oh, the story is so good, it's so emotional, whatever. Hearing you guys saying like, oh yeah, you heard that too, you went through it and you thought, oh, that was fine. Like, okay, so like I still don't know where my expectations should be if I were to pick it up for whatever reason. So I don't know.
Great gameplay, art style that flows really well and works amazing at 120 hertz. Okay. If you happen to have that TV and console combo that can do that. But I wouldn't say the story is the reason I go in there. I think it has some really cool mechanics and some really good ideas. I probably echo again some of what Kozi was saying, in that the beginning feels like way too punishing in some cases for this cutesy game that seems like it should be a bit easier. But then it eventually you find a rhythm to it and it's cool. And some of the powers I remember being really interesting, like you shoot yourself up in a certain direction and gain some like momentum from it, or I'm forgetting like all of the ones because now I've played a bunch of Hollow Knight too, but yeah.
That particular mechanic is especially cool. It takes a little while to get used to because it's almost like you're performing math in midair. But once you get the hang of it, especially once you get to the late game, it's particularly satisfying to pull off.
Good. And I think there's some cool set pieces too. Like there's a raven that comes in and swoops down and like picks you up and throws you. And I don't know. It's fun. It's interesting. Thumbs up.
Talking about, its Metroidvania influences, there are a lot of escape sequences in the game that are challenging because you have to be pretty pixel perfect in terms of where and when you jump, but are cinematically very satisfying to experience.
Super, super cool. I don't know if I'll ever get around to it, but
I've heard. I haven't played the sequel. I've heard that you could skip. Like again, if we're telling you the story is nothing to write home about, I would probably play the sequel and see how that goes.
Yeah,
I haven't played it. I don't know what the sequel is.
That's a good idea. Good idea.
I'm full of them, AJ.
Yeah, I mean, listen, you've made 2 games where I've made none, so
I'm full of something.
Got a couple of good ideas. Yeah. Okay. So. Let's see here. We mentioned Wordle earlier. You and I are playing a bunch of Wordle. in our group chat.
Yeah.
Wordle. Yeah. Wordle is still going for
your starting word changed. You do like, what do you do now? Crane is your starting word. That's interesting.
I saw this one YouTube video where it said, "Oh, crane is the best starting word," and I was like, "Okay, I'll do that." Yeah. And then there was a follow-up video that guy posted where it's just like because he like broke it all down like algorithmically, and he made like a program not to cheat but to like figure out what the best starting word would be, but it's totally dependent on what the actual word is, whether or not the starting. So it's a whole thing. So is crane a really good word? Probably still a really good word, but like. And it's been doing well for me for the most part until today, when we screw. We're not going to spoil it today because this is a live show. But the it's one of those where there's too many variables that it could have been. Like I've seen people miss with like the first letter, and I've seen people like myself miss with the middle letter. It's been rough. But yeah.
I will only say that my streak a couple days ago was 69, and the temperature in my house, which because I'm in Denver is in Fahrenheit, was also 69. So it felt like a pretty nice day.
Yeah, that's the spirit. That's the spirit. We're still playing a bunch of Wordle. That even though New York Times made the logo ugly, like. Why?
Hey man, what Steve Wardle? What is it? Steve Wardle?
Wardle? Yeah.
got out at just the right time. I saw somebody make a graph where like the number of people talking about it on Twitter or like Google searches or whatever basically peaked right when he sold and then dropped right back down. So Steve Wardle got away with, I think, what sounded like a 7-figure sum from the New York Times. So good for you, buddy. I'm like, he's the 1% of the indies. That's great. Good for you.
It's the dream, I bet. Yeah. From just a basic project that he made to have fun during the pandemic with his significant other. So, good for him. Let's see here. I'll just get this out of the way. I've kind of fallen a little bit back into Pokemon Unite. Ben, I don't know if you've played that at all.
I've not. I don't.
So
what is Pokemon Unite? Tell me about it.
It is the League of Legends with Pokemon.
Okay, I'm going to play Skate in my background while you talk.
Yeah, okay, perfect. Yeah. That's a good old reference. No, so it's actually surprisingly good. But it's I have a complicated relationship with it because like the core gameplay is super good, but there was a small aspect of it. It's not 100% pay to win or anything like that. You got to pay to unlock other characters, or you can over a long period of time grind out and pay, buy them that way. But there are these items that you can get to give to your Pokemon so that they hold them in battle, which increase their stats, and you can create a build, right? And so you could grind and get all the things you need to level those items up so that they can hold them, or you could pay some money and buy the things you need to level them up and do it that way. I've put a little bit of money into it in the past, and I put a little bit of money into it currently just so I could get the newest characters and stuff. And honestly, I have some fun with it. But for me personally, right now, why it's kind of come back up for me right now is I'm trying to do better about not doom scrolling on the internet while I'm on my lunch breaks at work. So I'm playing it on my phone, and that's working pretty well, and it's cross save, cross file something with the with the Switch version, and it's all free technically. So I'm having fun with it again, but I think because it is such short, like 10-minute matches or 5-minute if you want to do the quick battle function. It's really good for being able to pick up, load into a game, battle some Pokemon in real time as opposed to a turn-based battle system, and then log out afterwards. Log in, get your dailies, log out, whatever. It's prevented me from like doom scrolling TikTok, doom scrolling Instagram and Twitter and everything so many times. So yeah, it's good. I give it a try. Give it a try. I recommend
a 10-minute League of Legends doesn't sound like the worst thing, to be honest with you. Like League of Legends' problem for me is that it's 45 minutes of a 12-year-old yelling at me because they're stomping me and I have no idea what I'm doing. And I'm farming, or the other team is farming on me. They're ganking. I don't know.
Yeah.
All of these words.
So many words and fancy young people lingo that you got to relearn. It can be rough, but yeah. That's that. If you
can you jungle? Is there jungling?
Okay, so there's a top lane, there's a bottom lane, and then there's a center lane. Center lane would be the equivalent of jungling.
There's no towers in the center lane. It's just jungle.
So the way Pokemon Unite works is you fight these wild Pokemon in the battle arena, right? And from that, when you fight them and you knock them out, you get whatever number of orbs were above their head, right? and then you have to take it to the other team's tower. There's 5 towers total on the other side, and you literally have to slam dunk it into their net.
Oh, it's NBA Jam. Oh,
it's
what?
like
AJ.
Pokemon NBA Jam. There you go.
If
That's
you told me that, I would have grabbed it in 2 seconds.
There you go. That's
Boom,
perfect.
Shakalaka.
Yeah, and you know what? It's fun. Yeah, I've said that a few times. It's fun. I enjoy it, and it's good way to like not doom scroll. So
we've talked about this on the podcast in the past, but like I really just need to hunker down and play this game at some point. I'm like for context, Ben, quite into the Pokemons. Like I literally played my copy of Pokemon Emerald for over a decade so that I could eventually beat the Battle Frontier in that game, and I just did so just this past week.
Wow.
And yet I have not played this game. And it's nothing against MOBAs or anything of the like. I just, for whatever reason, keep putting it off. And I feel like I just need to hunker down because I really do want to talk about this stuff with you, AJ. But alas.
Yeah, I think you'll get a kick out of it, Kozi. You'll pick a main. I personally right now am maining Blastoise. But you might have somebody else. They have Pokemon on there from all the different generations.
Who's currently considered like the most overpowered of the bunch?
I don't know who I gave the newest guy a try. Who is it? Duraludon?
Duraludon? Even that's a little bit, even that's a little bit too far out for Kozi. I don't know. He looks like a giant rock crystal formation. I don't know. Yeah, I think I know. Yeah, he's a guy from Gen 8 that kind of looks like he
I think so.
Gigantamaxes into like a skyscraper.
Yeah, you lost me at Gigantamax. I'm just going to post the video of his character trailer into the chat we have here, and you can go ahead and look that up so you can remind yourself.
Yeah, I know this guy. Yeah,
you know that guy. So yeah, he's the newest guy. I tried playing him once and I completely melted the opposing team like multiple times. I didn't use him and fought against a team who was using him, and we got completely melted. They just destroyed us for some odd reason. I'm not sure how or why, but yeah, Duraludon is the newest character. He's fine, but I think he's broken in the wrong ways in some instances, unless when I'm using them, and then he's broken in the right ways, which is fine. But yeah. That's Pokemon Unite. I've been playing that. It's fun. It's a good way to stop doom scrolling. 10-minute matches. I think you'll like it, Kozi. I think you might enjoy it, Ben, if we were to play together at some point, if you can find time.
Yeah, maybe replace our Wordle mornings with
we'll
Unite
post
mornings.
Our victory screens or something.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but you know what? Maybe you and I should just start doing that and make Taylor and Kenny really confused in that.
We're trying to get them into Formula One. This is one thing at a time, AJ.
Okay, yeah, that's right. Yeah, Formula One. The first race is this weekend.
It is.
Who's taking it?
My main man, Carlos Sainz, smooth operator.
He's taking it.
He'll win it.
You'll win it.
Let's
win
go.
The whole thing. Okay.
Let's go.
Well,
yeah.
I mean, I'm still a Daniel Ricciardo fan, but I don't know what's going to happen after his recent bout with COVID.
Yeah, Daniel Ricciardo is COVID, man. That's harsh. I don't know.
He caught the Rona. Yeah, that's fun. Yeah, sorry, Kozi. We're talking motorsports. Not even real sports. These are like the cool sports, motorsports.
Let's not bore people on motorsports before talking about Art of Rally.
All I'm doing right now is I'm just stealing myself for when we do get to Art of Rally.
There we go.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, I'm excited for this season of F1. We'll see what the new car changes bring to it.
Porpoising.
Yeah, Shift F1, a podcast about speedy race cars. That's where we get all our cool F1 knowledge. Hosted by friend of Kind of Funny, Danny O'Dwyer, and he's also a friend of Giant Bomb, and also Drew Scanlon, who is also the blinking white guy. If you've ever used that meme, that's Drew Scanlon on a Formula One podcast. Check out that show. Let's see here. Risk of Rain 2. Ben, you've been playing that. How's that been going?
Risk of Rain 2 came out, I don't know, a number of years ago, and a group of friends of mine and I played a lot of that game. It just came out with an expansion, Survivors of the Void, I think is the name of it. It is a really silly game that is all about shooting a bunch of stuff, making things explode, lots of particle effects. If you're into technical art, which is like a game development discipline, this game is like the perfect technical art game. Particles, lasers, shields, all this stuff. The basic premise of the game is you and 3 friends spawn into this world, kill enemies, and those enemies drop items. And each of those items has some effect. So, you pick up a dagger and it causes all of your attacks to have bleed. Or you pick up a teddy bear and an attack from an enemy might not hit you every once in a while or something like that. So you get, and there are like hundreds of these items. I don't know what half of them do. But you end up getting interesting builds because the items randomly drop. So you might get a ukulele and a dagger, and suddenly all of your items do chain lightning damage and also cause enemies to bleed. Oh my goodness. Okay, now every time we find a ukulele or a dagger, AJ, you're taking it and you're basically carrying us. Like the game devolves into someone becomes uber powerful and the rest of us sit around and drink beer and this one person just kind of carries the game. It's a lot of fun with friends. I don't necessarily know that the expansion adds too much more to it. It adds some worlds. It adds like a couple game modes. But basically, it's have a good time with friends and shoot things with lasers. It's not bloody or gory or anything like that. I think it's like totally, as much as I've said the word shooting, I think this is like an E for everyone game. There's nothing really bad in it. And it's just a lot of fun. That I got into because of the pandemic. So it's like a good way to catch up with people if you haven't seen them in a while.
If you don't mind me asking, Risk of Rain and Risk of Rain 2 by extension are games that I've always been intrigued by solely because of their titles. I think Risk of Rain is an excellent title. I just watched that trailer that we just played on stream, however, and I did not see any rain anywhere at all within it. So why is it called Risk of Rain?
There is a distinct lack of rain in Risk of Rain. I know. I too was confused about the title when I played it. The premise comes from the fact that you spawn into a world, and at any point you can find a gate that will teleport you to the next world. And the goal of the game is to get through 5 worlds total and then beat the boss world. However, the longer you spend in the world, the more items drop. So you kind of want to spend a long time in each world, except the longer you spend overall throughout your entire game, there's basically a counter that counts up, the harder the enemies get. And so the quote unquote Risk of Rain is, I forget, there's some poem or some idiom or something that it comes from, but basically like you can risk being out in the rain, but you might get struck by lightning. And so that's the idea. Like you can kind of take the risk. You can sit here as long as you want, but then that next level is going to absolutely demolish you. So in fact, if you play it at the highest difficulties, you basically just want to sprint through the whole game. Like you do not want to hit that rain. Just keep going. Just go. And it's not literal rain. It's just really hard enemies.
Right. Gotcha.
Fair enough. I was looking up some like screenshots of it. And why do I have this vision of like an old like iPad game that's kind of like a throwback to like 2D for the original, I mean.
Risk of Rain 1 was top down. So Risk of Rain 2 is like a 3D behind the back shooter. That has like multiple character classes. Shooter is like depending on what class you're playing, but most of them are shooters, yada yada. But Risk of Rain 1 was a top-down version, and essentially Risk of Rain 2 when it released was the same game but in 3D.
Okay. That makes a little more sense then. Because like I'm just going through like the Google image search and like seeing comparisons and stuff, and it's just like, how did they go from that to this? It's just like, okay.
Yeah, it's still an indie team that makes it. There's like 5 people on that team, but it's also published by Gearbox. So I imagine that Gearbox, like, put a lever under their Borderlands family and went, here, take a dozen artists, because this game, at least, like, I would be extremely impressed if 5 people made this. This is like a lot of content. A lot of it's really good. It's very professionally made. So I imagine that they had a pretty big team for the second game, and it shows. It's awesome.
Awesome. Super, super cool. Yeah. So that's gonna do it, I think, for what we've been playing that is not Art of Rally. How about we talk Art of Rally?
Meow.
How do we feel about that? Meow.
That's it. That's the one.
Meow. That's it. Give me one of those again, Kozi. Be a speedy race car. You're not being a cat. You're being a speedy race car. Yep, nailed it. Perfect.
All right.
Good job. Yeah. So this week's game that we're talking about specifically is Art of Rally. Now, this is a game that I played a little bit of a little while ago, last year at some point. Then I got busy with like the whole moving thing and whatnot. But yeah, then Ben, I invited you onto the podcast, and you suggested that we play this. So why don't you go ahead and tell us about what the hell this is?
Yeah, so I should clarify. I was listening to last week's podcast, and Kozi said something like, I'm disappointed. I thought Ben was going to like suggest a game that he'd already played and he'd loved, and instead we're all playing this new game, and so we'll see how it is. It's kind of an in-between. I've loved the look of Art of Rally. I know the dev who made it. I guess we could say we're friends. He's this really cool guy named Dune, who like develops games while in the back of a van and like drives around. He's awesome. And I love the idea of this game, and so I've always wanted to play it. And I thought we were supposed to suggest a game that we hadn't played anyway. But either way, I would have suggested
for the
this
record,
game.
for context, I was largely saying what I said last week facetiously. You can select whatever game so interests you. If it's a game you've never played before, if it's a game you've played for dozens of hours, it was whatever you wanted to suggest.
This was my excuse to play a new game that I had really wanted to play for a while, but couldn't because life things. So I am extremely happy that we played this because I had a lot of fun. So let's back up. So Art of Rally is kind of a game about Group B rally racing. And it's really fun because it's going to let me talk about Group B rally. I won't bore people with rally sport like we were doing with F1, but really quickly, rally is a type of racing that takes road cars basically and drives them all around skinny roads, all around dirt, snow, tarmac, any type of road that you can think of. And it's been around for a long time. And Group B was like in the early 80s, and it was the heyday of rally. It was this era where they wanted more eyeballs and manufacturers to get into the rally. So all of the restrictions that they had put in place, that the FIA, the governing body, had put in place, they're like, forget most of these. Just come and race your speedy race cars. And so all of these manufacturers like Audi, BMW, Porsche, Lancia, Mini came around and were like, okay, let's make really fast cars. We're going to put all of the latest tech in them. We're going to even like develop new technology for them. We're going to make them super light. And all of those like safety concerns that you have, like roll cages and crash structures, you're not really going to check that, are you? Because if we do, we're just going to bounce. So like, just don't bother with it, right? So it was like the Wild West of rally racing. It was insane. And big engine, small road going car, no traction on the surface means that the only way to properly get around a turn is to slide. It's the only sport where like drifting around a turn is actually the fastest way to go around the turn. And so you get these insane moments of like, AJ, go ahead.
Are you trying to say that Tokyo Drift was lying to us the whole time?
I hate to break it to you, but Luda isn't as good as Craig Scarborough for his tech talking.
God damn it.
So in rally racing, basically, especially in Group B, you got these amazing shots of these massive cars hurtling around, smoke and dust and snow all kicked up behind them. And get this, they're driving on public roads. And the laws at the time said, hey man, I paid for this public road. I can stand right in the middle of it if I want to. You can't tell me where to stand. It's my road. And I guess the organizers went, okay, we can't tell you where to stand. So you have these ridiculous shots of people just like in the middle of the road as rally cars are going like 100 miles an hour past them, like with a camera, trying to take a photo, taking a photo, and then sprinting and almost getting their ankle clipped as they dive out of the way. It's like, it's basically the sex, drugs, and rock and roll era of rally. And if you want to know more about it, there's tons of YouTube videos out there. Top Gear did a whole series on it. My favorite one is Driver 61. He has like a good 20-minute breakdown of the whole thing. I highly recommend it. It's fantastic. This game is like a minimalist ode to that era of rally racing. It obviously that era, I mean, maybe not obviously at the time, but in retrospect, it ended in tragedy. It ended in like two people falling off of a cliff and dying in a fiery explosion. I know. This game basically looks at that era and goes, okay, like, what if it was magical instead? What if like people didn't get injured? What if when you went off the road, it was fine, nobody cared, and you just moved on and you got a 5-second penalty and that was it? It starts off with like a car in front of a Buddha statue telling you about the way to drift around a corner. It's like this really weird, it's not, what I want to make clear is that it's not a Forza Motorsport or a Gran Turismo or an iRacing or an Assetto Corsica. It's not a simulation game, but it's also not like a Mario Kart. It's like, it's somewhere in between. It's not a simulator. It's not a documentary. It's honestly, to me, it feels like a poem. It feels like this dedication to this era of racing. It's a tribute, exactly. It's absolutely gorgeous, especially if you're playing on PC. It looks like incredible. This like really minimalist style with colors popping everywhere. And again, like they took all the purples and tuned them up. They took all the greens and the yellows and cranked them up, and it almost has this pastel feel, and you're always driving at like the perfect time of day and sunset and sunrise. But beyond it looking good and being this like poetic tribute to one of my favorite eras of racing, it's just a good game. Like, it has this really stable control system that's, again, it's not a simulation, but it's not easy, and it has its own like internal rule set of like how to drift around a corner, how long to hold the e-brake, and it gives you a really good sense of these cars, again, have no grip. They understeer like crazy. Understeer means, hey, I turned the wheel left and I still went straight because I don't have any grip to turn. And yet, once you hit the e-brake, you oversteer like crazy. Basically, you like do more than what you need. You run the risk of spinning out. And it's this crazy balance of that really gives you a sense of what rally racing is. And so that's why I really loved this game. I didn't find it flawless. We can talk about some of the issues I have with it. Like I really think there should be a mini map, or at least like somebody calling out track turns
the
to
upcoming
you.
turn, like they do in actual rally racing these days. I don't know if did they have the co-pilot driver?
They did. They always had a co-pilot, and so I feel like this game's kind of missing that. I think the default camera is kind of meh. I think it has like not great console optimization. I think the photo mode could have more options, but I think like an old Lancia Stratos, it's ugly, it's smelly. You hit the gas and you have a great time. And I had a phenomenal time with Art of Rally. I think it's wonderful.
Kozi, what did you think about it?
I think that I'm really happy that you and Ben really love this game, because I found this game difficult to get into.
Sure.
I mean, you guys, kind of already covered it. This game is neither Mario Kart nor is it a Super Simi Racer. It's something in between the two of them. And while the game, does offer a lot of, various modes that you can engage in, there's like a free roaming mode, there's like a career mode. The game almost feels, to Ben's point, more like a poem than anything else. It's a like kind of epic tribute to this sort of time that never was, or this time that we imagined this other time as being. However, I just wasn't quite able to get into the groove of it as much as I made an honest attempt to do so.
So what do you think? What do you think held you back on it? Because I know I've come to this new review thing that we're doing, just sort of like trying to get into a game, and like I know I've with some of the games that we played, I've had my own struggles trying to get into a game. Are you just not interested in racing, or is there something else like specific that you just aren't interested in?
I mean, I think a large component of it was just not really kind of being familiar with kind of rally racing. After I played the game, like I went and looked up online what other people thought of it, and like a common kind of sentiment that I saw was like, this game, again, is a fantastic kind of tribute to rally racing. If you're familiar with rally racing, you'll kind of really kind of truly appreciate it and what it's going for. And I felt like, as somebody who is very much a neophyte to this, section of the world of racing, I felt like I was really kind of missing out on a lot of context and history as to why I would kind of appreciate it. And stemming from that, I just found the controls of the game difficult to kind of fall in love with. I don't want to say that they were absolutely difficult to master. The more and more I played of the game, the more and more I definitely was able to wrap my hands and my head around what the game kind of expected of me versus what something like a Mario Kart expects from me. But I still wasn't able to ever get to a point where I'm like, okay, I'm really enjoying this.
So as it relates to like Mario Kart, I can actually kind of see where it's like, so Mario Kart, in my opinion, is like super fun when you're doing 50cc, 100cc, 150cc, which is like easy, medium, hard difficulty with not only regards to the AI, but also like to how the kart controls. But then they, for some reason, get to 200cc, and I just cannot, for the life of me, figure out how to play that at 200cc, because like it gets a lot more difficult, not only to control, but also like it's Mario Kart. Like Mario Kart, in my opinion, like you should never have to take your foot off the gas. You should just be able to go and drift, and do whatever you need. But 200cc Mario Kart, you have to actually brake when you go into corners, and it's really, really off-putting, in my opinion. So like I sort of like peak and cap at 150cc because of it. Going into this, like I sort of like, I just got an achievement. Braille.
Oh.
What is that? Dirty a vehicle to the fullest extent.
Yeah. Wow.
I am playing live, by the way. It's playing live behind me. I am also playing via the cloud streaming currently, and it's actually working really well. Out on Game Pass. But the what was I saying? Mario Kart. Yeah, I sort of kind of knew what I was getting into, mostly because I didn't already have the expectation of like Mario Kart is, you just need to press go and just go and drift around corners and you're fine. My expectation here is that I'm going to slip and slide. I am. The whole game is basically an ice level, if you really think about it. So it's like, once you can wrap your head around that, you start to get a little bit better. But then, there's still the odd turn that sneaks up on you, like thanks to the camera angles and stuff like that. the way it sort of works out.
You can change it. Wait, if you go into options right now, you can change your camera angle and it makes it better.
I went past it. Oops.
You can. I think you can start. Yeah,
options. What is it? Camera. Field of view.
You want camera view to be like the lowest or whatever. Like there you go.
Camera view 1. Okay, let's see if that helps. Live podcast, folks.
I did. I should mention while I was playing, I did try playing around with some of the customization settings a little bit to see if I could get the feel of driving a little bit closer to what I wanted out of the game. But there's only so much that you can do to kind of change the way it feels ultimately.
And to be honest with you, I think I kind of agree with you, Kozi. Like it took me a long time to get into the rhythm of it. I actually spent a lot of time there's like a weird open world section that they just start you in before you start races. They're just like, hey, here's an open world section. And like to leave it, go to the pause menu. I'm like, wait, what? There's no like thing that you end doing. I would have thought it was like, hey, drive to this area, but it's just an open world section. You just keep driving around. And it took me a while to understand, like, hey, you have to hold the drift button sometimes, the e-brake sometimes on like longer turns. You have to like just tap the regular brake on shorter turns. It takes a little bit of getting used to the point where I was surprised at how tricky it was to get into. But I think once I got into it, I think maybe, Kozi, I probably like either I got it sooner or I just banged my head on it longer, where I eventually got into a groove, and it feels so good drifting around like 180-degree hairpin turn on a mountain pass where like there's just a cliff face on one side, and you know that if you screw it up by like the tiniest sliver, you're just going over. And it leads to these moments that feel really, that at least for me felt really good.
For me, like racing games in general, I find I rarely actually use the e-brake. I'm always using the regular brake. Are there any tips that you could give me, like as I'm doing this live, for like, or is it just something I gotta feel out? Like,
so use the e-brake more than you are, for sure. If you're not using the e-brake, definitely use
the B button, right?
Yeah, and you can. It basically spins you around much faster. So you can tap it and kind of get around 90-degree turns.
See, I just went off the cliff because I use the e-brake.
You brake and e-brake. You kind of use regular brake, tap the e-brake, and then gas immediately. Your goal basically is turning your car, like again with any rally race, turn your car in as short of a distance as possible. You want to almost make a 90-degree turn every time, because you don't have grip. You can't like do a good turn. So I guess that's the way I play it, and it feels so good. It feels so good.
Yeah,
it feels so
good. There were a couple of leaderboards I was looking at a little while ago, and like I think you made it to the end of one of the race, one of the chapters or something. Like I think it was here we go. 30 you're 30 seconds faster than me. Probably because of that e-brake, but also like I went off the edge there. I'm using a different car and everything like that, but like it's one of those good leaderboard games too, right? Where if you've got a group of friends playing it or something like that, like you can slowly try and chip away at somebody else's time and like see, I don't know. Can you share ghosts with it? Like,
that's a good question. I know the ghosts, there's an option to do like world leaders. Go to ghosts now. Let's see. Ghosts off.
Ghosts on. World's best.
So I think it's just world's best.
That's my only option. Yeah. World best ghost. I think it'd be cool if you could have like your friends ghost, just to like see what they did and see if you can try and go with that. But yeah,
the one thing that this game made me realize is like Forza broke me with its rewind button. Like in Forza, I Leroy Jenkins every turn. I'm like, oh, what turn's coming up? Oh, cool. That was fun. I ran into a barn. Let me hold rewind and do it again properly now that I know it's coming up. And the first race in this, I realized, oh crap, we're not in Kansas anymore. This is back to a real racing game. And it felt more worthwhile. Like I felt more proud of my times in a weird way that I didn't realize that button in Forza was making. I love Forza, especially Forza Horizon is great. But I think my enjoyment of it is lessened because of that button. I should go back and play without it.
Yeah, the one actually. So when I was playing earlier today, trying to refresh myself on it, like what I found was I was missing what I would really like to see in this is the Forza driving line that they have, the adaptive driving line, where it tells you, it changes color when like, hey, you need to brake at this point or like slow down or something like that, right? I think that would be even in terms of like accessibility when it comes to the controls, like I think that is something that is incredibly valuable. And how I got into good. Sorry, my Fitbit is just telling me I got 10,000 steps as I'm sitting here talking with my hands like an Italian. I don't know how that happened. No,
we're talking about racing. We're talking about Lancias, man. We're talking about Ferraris.
Yeah, mamma mia.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Mario and Jenny,
the whole bit.
Yeah.
So yeah, the Forza driving line, I find it to be incredibly helpful, and it's like something that kind of got me into more simulation racing as of late. It's something that's very helpful in the F1 video game. Actually, the 2021 one is coming to Game Pass. So last year's game is coming to Game Pass next week. So after the first race, because everybody's going to be into it and they can finally see like whatever. But it's going to be the wrong cars, so I don't even want to touch it. But that line, like when Forza first introduced it, I think it was in the very first Forza game, Forza Motorsport on the original Xbox. I think that sort of like ruined all other simulation racing games for me if they didn't have that kind of like adaptive racing line to show me like yeah, I know where the racing line is, but I don't know in the context of the game like how fast I should be going, because I could probably feel it out in a real car, but like it'd be very difficult. It's very difficult to feel when you have that disconnect in G forces. You know what I mean? Does that make sense? Am I talking out of my ass? I don't know.
No, I think that makes sense. Yeah, totally. I think a racing line for Art of Rally would definitely add to, especially like in a tutorial level. I think that would be really good.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I don't know if I've got any much more to say about Art of Rally. I think you sort of covered it all in talking about it.
I will say I love the cars in Art of Rally. They're basically they're the Grand Theft Auto like equivalents of real world cars. So like instead of but they're so obvious. Like instead of the Porsche 911, they have DOS 119 or whatever, or instead of the Mini, it's the Meanie, and you're like, okay, I see what you're doing.
I see what
here.
they did. Yeah,
but it's cool because
I just want to say there's some pretty fun descriptions in there for some of those cars. I feel like it didn't really do much to help me kind of comprehend what I was experiencing in the moment with not this sort of huge understanding of rally racing, but it's pretty funny.
Yeah, it's very tongue-in-cheek. The whole game is like, again, there's a Buddha telling you how to rally race. Like it's like an interesting kind of moment of like tongue-in-cheek haikuism. I don't know. But yeah, like some of the cars. The other thing too is the cars feel really different to each other in a way that you would kind of expect them to. I've never driven a rally car, let alone rally cars from like the 70s or 80s. But like, the Lancia Stratos is a rally car that was built on like, I think it was like a Lamborghini engine or something, with like the absolute lightest chassis that they could find and a teeny tiny wheelbase. And so you imagine driving something like that as being like a rocket ship that you can't steer. And that's what that car is in this game. Like, I hate driving it, but it's so it feels more accurate in that way, right? Like, the Mini has troubles going uphill. The the 2-wheel drive backloaded DOS 119, the 911 equivalent, like whips around corners in a really different, heavier, interesting way. So I'm impressed with like how much time has been put into just the driving engine, because I feel like you could make this game and make like a handful of cars and they all kind of drive the same, but they look cool. One looks like a Mini, yay, wee. But instead you can tell like the details of this game, there's a lot of love put into it. And I really respect when developers can put in that effort and that time to let you discover those small little details, like Kozi was saying, the funny descriptions, or it gives the game personality, it gives it attitude, and I appreciate it.
Yeah, I think okay, so at the end of this whole review thing that we do here where we talk about a game, we tend to give it a score. So you being a developer, if you don't want to score it, I totally understand if you're not comfortable with that. Me personally, I think I would give this a 4 out of 5 for what it is. Kozi, how do you feel?
Do I have to slap on a numerical score in this instance?
I don't think so. It's up to you.
Well, in that case, I think through the conversation that we've had here, it's pretty apparent that this is, not a game that you can just sort of jump into right away and immediately enjoy, even if you like have this sort of already pre-existing investment in rally racing, unlike something like Mario Kart, which you can kind of just jump into and, enjoy right off the bat. This game kind of demands that you kind of respect what it's trying to do and kind of work with it. And it seems like, with enough time and patience and practice, you can really kind of get it to sing. And in doing so, really get, a tremendous amount of satisfaction out of this game. But if you're not kind of committed to that, it might not be the game for you. But that's just me.
I'll give it 12 bananas out of 6 oranges.
Perfect. Nailed it. Yeah, that's like a perfect score.
Maybe. It depends on how you feel about bananas and oranges, right?
It's true. What were you going to say, Kozi?
No, it's fine. I was going to say if you could convert that into something on a 5-point scale, but I don't want to force you to give it a numerical score if you don't want to.
Well, I mean, I could math it out. Like, that would be 10 bananas out of 5 oranges.
Okay, but is what is one banana worth 1 orange? Are they equivalent, or is like?
I think one banana is worth 3 Shroot bucks.
Shroot bucks.
Well, yeah, I was gonna say like there's so many slices of an orange that you could get, but also like,
do we also count like the rind of the orange, because that part is like very sour and it's used in a lot of recipes to like you don't
eat it, but you use the zest.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, you don't eat it. Yeah, I don't know. Anyway, that was Art of Rally. Yay, we did it. Yeah, before we try to wrap things up here, Kozi, you had something you wanted to do.
Yes. So
I'm going to hand you the keys to this rally race.
All right. Perfection. So typically, Ben, the way that we try and close out episodes of Press YYZ are with a long, meaty segment in which we do things like debate the top 10 video game sequels, the top 10 video game horses. We try and budget the 15 most essential GameCube, PlayStation 2 games with only $20 in our pocket, things of that nature. This time around, I kind of figured that we were probably going to have a pretty meaty discussion about Art of Rally. So I figured instead of that, I would keep today's topic of the show, as it were, kind of short and sweet. Recently, as we talked about much throughout this podcast, you released a little game by the name of Airborne Kingdom, out now on Steam. Once again, go check it out if you're just tuning into the podcast right now and have not heard about that. And I figured it would be fun to do something that would probe your knowledge of city building games, considering that you just shipped one.
All right.
And so I went looking online through other city building games from throughout the ages, and it kind of occurred to me as I was reading through some of these names, I feel like you could tell me that half of these names are the names of Netflix original movies, and I'd believe you. So right here and right now, AJ, Ben, we're going to play a game called City Building Game or Netflix Original Movie. I'm going to tell you a name. I have 10 names right over here in this Google Doc, which you currently cannot see. I'm going to say what it is. You're going to tell me if it is a city building game or a Netflix original movie, and we will reveal its identity. You're correct.
I really hope there's one that's both. I really
incorrect.
Want one to be both.
We'll see. If you're incorrect, you get 0 points. Sounds good?
Sounds good.
All right. Let's get started. Number 1. Deep.
Netflix.
Deep.
AJ says it's a Netflix original movie.
I would also go with Netflix. I haven't heard of Deep.
Are we both locked in?
Locked in.
Final answer.
Okay. Deep, also known as Project Lap Lap Pentai, which translates to Secret Project Sleep Be Die, is a 2021 Netflix original movie. Written and directed entirely by a team of students from Bangkok University. Deep is a Thai mystery thriller about a female student that undergoes an experimental medical trial where falling asleep means death. All right. Well, I'm glad you both got that first one right off the bat. Both of you have 1 point. I'm going to warn you.
This is basically like, is this a city builder or something Ben has never heard of?
I mean, if some of you off the bat know some of these Netflix movies, I'm going to be pretty impressed. Let's move on to number 2. Cleopatra, Queen of the Nile.
Ben, you go first. I did the last one.
I will say city builder.
Can I just hear the name of it again?
Cleopatra, Queen of the Nile. And by the way, that's colon as in the 2 dots, not Cleopatra as in the body part.
Yeah. So, okay. So I could just like you said, it's either going to be city builder game or something you've never heard of. So, do I just go with you and whatever you say? But that would make things a little less interesting. So I'm gonna go with Netflix again, just to be different. We'll see what happens.
Since the dawn of cinema, there have been no shortage of movies about Cleopatra, the charismatic queen that ruled Egypt over 2 millennia ago. However, Cleopatra, Queen of the Nile is not a Netflix original movie, but an expansion to city building game Pharaoh that was released in the year 2000 and was developed by Breakaway Games.
What threw me off is I didn't remember that game, like I know the game Cleopatra, I didn't remember that it had a subtitle, and I was like, oh God, is this like a Wesley Snipes spin-off of some crazy movie?
If I recall correctly, when they would repackage the game Pharaoh and Cleopatra included in it, they would sometimes title it as just like Pharaoh and Cleopatra. They dropped the
maybe that's
Queen
what
of
I'm
Nile
thinking
part,
of.
so it's possible that might be the case. All right. Ben is currently 2 for 2, and AJ has 1, but not to worry. There are a lot more pieces of media coming up that can be used to help recuperate your score, AJ. All right.
Yeah, thanks.
Number 3, Hinterland.
I'm going to go with Netflix again.
I believe this sounds familiar to me, so I believe it's a city builder.
Shit.
Are we both locked into our responses?
As locked in as I'll ever. It sounds like such a familiar name. It could be anything, but I think it's a city builder.
I feel like I heard of like the Hinterland thing on like one of those like what is Canada Heritage Moments or something like that, like that you'd see on TV as a kid. Like there was something similar to that.
I'm gonna go. Yeah. The Hinterlands are like an area, the first area of Dragon Age Inquisition. So I spent a long time seeing the word Hinterlands every single day of my work life.
Fuck. Maybe that's where I've. Fuck.
I already said locked in. You have choices, AJ. I already locked in.
I do. Fuck it. I'm gonna lock in. Netflix.
All right.
Stab me.
Set within a fantastical world inspired by both Norse and Celtic mythology, Hinterland is a genre-bending role-playing game and city-building game released in 2008 by Tilted Mill Entertainment.
That actually sounds super interesting, so I kind of want to look it up.
I haven't played that one. Yeah, that sounds pretty cool.
All right. Number 4. This one...
There is a television series called Hinterland, by the way.
It's not a Netflix original movie. AJ.
Not a Netflix original.
Yeah, which is definitely true of like a couple of things on this list. Like, I won't say them right now, but a couple of the ones coming up have been already made into like either a game or a movie in perhaps another kind of genre or on another platform. But
also, in trying to find this other game, Hinterland Studio are the creators of The Long Dark.
Yeah, former BioWare people at that company too. Lots of former BioWare people there.
Yeah.
All right. Number 4. This one sounds like one word, but it's actually 2 words. End game. So the word end and then the word game.
I'm going to go with Netflix on this one.
I'm also going to go with Netflix on this one.
All right. The world of cinema is no stranger to movies that sport the phrase endgame, with Avengers Endgame being the most recent high-profile film to sport this moniker. However, if you were hoping that this preamble would lead into me revealing that Endgame is actually a city-building game, you're sorely mistaken. Or perhaps very relieved. That's because Endgame is in fact a 2018 Netflix original movie by Rob Epstein and Jeffrey Friedman that explores our perception of life and death through the patients at a hospital in San Francisco.
I'm impressed they could use that. Like, considering Avengers Endgame probably especially Disney, probably has trademarks up the wazoo for that. I'm actually super impressed that someone decided to make an indie film and go, yeah, we're going to call it that. Come at me.
This movie did come out in 2018, though, so I feel like they got in that door before Endgame was even announced as the title. Because if you remember, for the longest period of time, that movie didn't have Endgame as its colon.
Right.
Yeah, it was just like Avengers 4 or something like that for the longest time.
All right. Ben is currently 4 for 4. AJ is 2 for 4. Next up, number 5, Banished.
That is a city builder.
That is a city builder. I don't have to pretend I don't know that one. That one's a city builder.
Yeah. That is one of my that's one of my favorite city builders. It's actually really, really good.
Well, in that case, banish any thought from your mind of Banished being a Netflix original, because Banished is a city-building game released by Shining Rock Software. Released in 2014, Banished provided fans with a slightly more hardcore take on the genre, tasking them with carefully managing the resources of a growing yet isolated society living off the land in the wilderness. All right, so we have Ben, who's 5 for 5, and we have AJ, who is 3 for 5. Still have a few more opportunities here to make up a bit of ground. Number 6, Fractured.
I believe that's a city builder.
Fuck. Well, it screwed me last time not going with you, so I'm going to go with you on this one.
How are you going to catch up?
I don't know if I can.
Gotta play that long game, AJ.
Oh, fuck.
Are we both locked in?
No, he just convinced me to go the other way. I'm gonna go Netflix. Fuck it.
All right. I'd love to tell you that Fractured was a Netflix original movie that was released in 2019
bastard.
And not a video game, which is why I'm over the moon to confirm that Fractured is indeed a Netflix original movie that was released in 2019. Hell yeah. Directed by Alan B. McElroy, Fractured is a psychological thriller movie that sees Ray, portrayed by Sam Worthington, attempting to uncover what became of his wife after she disappears under mysterious circumstances. So with that, AJ has caught up a little bit. He's now at 4 points, while Ben remains at 5 points.
That's a good name for a city builder, though. We should make one called Fractured.
All right.
What would it be about? Like something in an earthquake zone? You know, shout out to the people in Japan right now who just experienced another earthquake today, a really bad one.
Oh, did they really? Oh wow!
Oh yeah.
That. Oh geez.
It was just off the coast of Fukushima again.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I was going to make some fun jokes about building cities inside gaping holes that fractured by earthquakes, but maybe not today.
Yeah, maybe not today.
That's a concern. Like, you don't want to be in a Motor Storm Apocalypse scenario where that game released like in the immediate shadow of the 2011 Fukushima disaster in Japan, for example.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. Number 7, Caliber.
Netflix.
See, now I want to use the AJ theory of just say what you're not saying. But I also think it's Netflix. Or I should say I don't think it's a city builder, so I'll go Netflix. Lock it in. Locked it.
All right. In. If you believed that Caliber was a medieval city building game about knightly chivalry, then I'm afraid you're going to have to calibrate your expectations, because Caliber is a 2018 Netflix original movie directed by one Matt Palmer. Set in Scotland, the movie follows the exploits of an aggressive businessman and his old friend on a hunting trip in the Scottish Highlands. So,
your descriptions are playing games with my heart. They're going up and down. My rate can't handle it.
Well, I'm glad you're enjoying them. All right.
I'm still at a solid 75 right here. So
that puts Ben at 6 points and AJ at 5 points. We only have a few more entries left, but it's still anyone's game.
Hot in the heels.
Next up, number 8, Mobility.
That sounds like a city builder, but I'm going to say Netflix.
We're tied up right now, right?
Ben has 5 and you... Ben has 6 and you have 5.
Mobility. I think I actually have to say Netflix on this one as well. But actually.
So you said Netflix. Ben, you're also Netflix?
Yes.
All right. A relative unknown within its genre. That genre being the city building genre. Mobility is a 2001 game released by German video game developer Glamis. In contrast to other city building games, Mobility places a large emphasis on transportation infrastructure, allowing one to finely tune the flow and rhythm of traffic in its metropole down to the finest detail. I was reading a bit about the Wikipedia entry for this game. You can do stuff like add like speed bumps and like set like the traffic like speed limit within like very specific patches of streets.
This is like some SimCity 1, not even 2, but like SimCity 1 level.
This stuff. Game looks cool.
It does. There's like an aesthetic here, like that late 90s, early 2000s aesthetic in this game.
Yeah, that's awesome.
All right,
you got me. I've never heard of this, but it looks dope.
Ben's at 6, AJ's at 5. Let's see if we can close the gap.
The only thing I have to convince AJ is just to go exactly with every answer I have, to convince him I am the most right, and he'll fail if he goes anywhere else.
God damn it.
All right, let's see if he can do so. Number 9, The Sumerian Game.
The Sumerian Game. Well, I went first last time, AJ. You got to go first.
I'm gonna say Netflix.
Yeah, I was gonna go Netflix also. There is a game about Sumerian society that's new. I think it's something like Ancients or something like that.
But
no,
what
that's another
is
one.
Is there a game that puts game in their title?
The Game of Life, AJ.
No, the title of the Game of Life is Life. That is like the subtitle.
No, that's
above
the cereal, AJ.
Okay. Well, fuck me, I guess. Lock in. What did I say? What was my answer? Netflix.
I think it's Netflix. I will say it's Netflix, yeah.
You're both Netflix?
Yeah.
Yep.
All right. Buckle up for this one, because the Sumerian Game is a video game. Now, hold on. I know you're both disappointed, but listen to the story behind this one. This is a video game developed collaboratively by IBM and the Board of Cooperative Educational Services of Westchester County, New York, between the years of 1964 and 1966. Heralded as both the first city-building video game and the first narrative-based video game, the Sumerian Game tasked players with managing the Sumerian city of Lagash around the year of 3500 BC. The game was exclusively playable on the IBM 7090 mainframe computer and used basically a mixture of printouts, taped audio lectures, and images displayed on a slide projector to basically convey what it is that you were doing in the game. Beyond being extremely influential on games that would follow in its wake, the Sumerian Game was also notable for being developed by Mabel Addis, who was the world's first female video game developer.
Wow.
That's cool. I like to think that Kozi did no research for this and just knows all of this stuff. Like he has this bank of city builders in the back of his mind at all times.
You might be surprised. I bet he's like a secret wealth of knowledge on a lot of this stuff. Side note, I did Google image search for Sumerian Game here, the Sumerian Game, and a different Sumerian game came up. And it's linking me to the University of Waterloo website, and I don't know why.
It's probably a virus.
Yeah, it could be a virus. Yeah, you would know.
If I know anything about the University of Waterloo,
it's probably a virus.
Probably a virus.
To give those at home an example of what this game looked like, this is a student playing the game on the IBM 7090 computer. In the background, you can see one of the slides that's displayed when you're playing the game projected in the background. And so you'd be kind of typing at the computer. It would print out what's currently going on. And yeah, all of this would sort of work in concert with each other.
That's really cool.
That is super neat.
All right. We are still at 5 and 6 points. If you want, I can throw a last-minute wild card into the mix and say that this final movie / game is worth, let's say, 700 points. Or we can just keep it at 1 point.
I mean, if it was going to be 2 points, I would have said no, but 700. I mean, 706 points. Sounds pretty good way to end.
Pretty good.
Yeah.
Pretty good.
Okay. I'm in.
All AJ, right. Are you in?
It's 700 or nothing.
Yeah.
All right. Spectral.
Spectral.
Should we write our answers down on a card for this last?
Yeah, I'm just going to type it into my web browser just for safekeeping for no reason. Yeah. Don't worry about it, guys. Spectral. Did I go first or did you go first last time?
I will write my answer down. Hold it up and you can say yours first. Okay. You say yours first, and then I'll hold up this card that I just wrote my answer down on.
Okay, I'm gonna go because you seemed instantly confident. I'm gonna say City Builder.
I also have City Builder written down, but my confidence might be misplaced because I've never heard of this, and yet I feel like I'm doing some sociology on Kozi right now. It feels like Kozi has a lot of amazing city builder knowledge, and I think he wants to share like one more awesome one with us. And so I'm ready for this curveball to be wrong, but I'm pretty sure this is going to be a city builder that I've never heard of and want to research all about. But AJ, you should pick Netflix. I mean, pick Netflix. It's totally the right answer.
No, I'm sticking with City Builder. Fuck it.
Okay, locked in City Builder.
Locked in. You win no matter what. Me locking in, but you know what? Fuck it. I want to see. I need to know. This is what I feel in my gut.
I need to compose myself because I'm gonna burst out laughing if I don't. An early addition to Netflix's repertoire of original movies, Spectral is a 2016 horror fantasy movie directed by Nick Mathieu. It sees a researcher for DARPA travel to Moldova to investigate a supernatural phenomenon with a taste for human blood.
What? Okay, Ben, were you expecting like a twist, like it's going to be like one of their first entries into gaming, like? Because they did that Bandersnatch, and then they've got this like game studio thing in the background. Like, were you expecting that twist? And then it didn't come.
I was expecting was Spectral as a 2016 Netflix blah blah blah, based upon the City Builder series of the same name.
Oh man. I feel there are a lot of like Uwe Boll movies that you can do that with. Like, hey, did you know that Dungeon Siege is based off of this like Dungeon Siege video game? But unfortunately, I don't know that there are a lot of city building games that you can do that with.
Yeah, let's make SimCity with The Rock.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's it for that. So the final scores are Ben with 6 points and AJ with 5 points.
706 and 705.
Congratulations to Ben.
For the record.
And you know what? A small, slightly less congratulatory congratulations to AJ as well for making sure that Ben performed to the best of his ability.
Yeah, I threw that on purpose. You're welcome.
Thank you, AJ. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thanks for making me feel good.
We are on the team, and we're gunning for the Constructors Championship here. We both win if you win. That's how that works, right? I'm the bow toss to your Hamilton.
AJ, this is James. Do not race Ben.
Don't make me fucking throw these on the ground.
All right, we're back to Formula One memes, I think.
Yeah, but no, I can't believe it. No, I need to drive the speedy race car. Sorry, that's my Toto Wolff impression, which is also my Arnold Schwarzenegger impression. No,
it's not. No, Michael, no, it's so not.
No,
right.
Michael, I need to show you my emails. Yeah, yep. Keep your hand there, Kozi. That's fine. That's totally cool. Yeah. So I guess that was the show. Welcome to the outro.
Thank you for letting me come on to your podcast and about video games and talk about Formula One and rally race cars.
Yeah, you're very welcome.
By all means, thank you. It was a real good time.
Yeah, just like last time where we went over your history in the games industry. Don't forget to catch that episode. I think 25 or 26, one of the two. But yeah, you always provide such valuable insight that we don't necessarily have, not really being in the industry ourselves. And when we want to like armchair game design some stuff, it helps to know that some of our opinions are okay to somebody in the industry. That's thanks for coming on. Of course, you're always welcome. Anytime you want. anytime you can put the baby down.
I mean, if I get to hear this Schwarzenegger wolf impression more, I'm gonna have to come on. This is too much.
You might have to. You might have to. So Airborne Kingdom out now on Steam. Anything else you want to promote? What's next for you? What's coming up?
More Airborne Kingdom stuff, man. We're making it. We're still updating it. Join our Discord, discord.gg/Airborne Kingdom. What else? I don't know. I am at The Wandering Ben on Twitter. You can find me there. I'm always happy to chat with people. I know a lot of people end up chatting with me about like ways to get into the industry or like where to go to learn stuff. I teach at the University of Denver as well, so I'm used to like a lot of students asking me questions like that. So I always like to encourage people to reach out if you have any questions. I'm more than happy to be a resource for anyone.
Awesome. Very, very nice. Well, that's going to do it. So thank you for tuning into Press YYZ. If you enjoyed this broadcast, be sure to follow us on Twitch, subscribe to us on YouTube, and rate and review us on Apple Podcasts. You can also check us out on Twitter at Press YYZ and slide into our Discord at invite.gg/Press YYZ to keep the conversation going. Until next time, thanks for playing.